The bathroom door slammed shut behind her, and for a second Emily thought the world had stopped. Her trembling fingers still gripped the tray she had carried in from the dining hall, a trail of spilled coffee marking her panic. The sharp voice of her manager, Mr. Reynolds, echoed off the tiled walls, cutting through the silence like glass shattering. "You can't even carry a cup right. Do you think this place is a charity?" His words struck her harder than the scalding coffee ever could. Tears welled up, but she blinked them away, not out of pride but survival. She had endured worse. Still, the sting of humiliation in that cold, fluorescent-lit restroom felt unbearable. What she didn't know was that only a few steps away, sitting quietly at a corner table, her husband, a Navy SEAL home on leave, had just heard the sound of her muffled sobs. If you believe that kindness, dignity, and second chances matter more than power or pride, then take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps bring real human stories like this to life, stories that remind us what courage and love look like in everyday people. Emily Parker was 27, a soft-spoken woman with eyes that carried both warmth and fatigue. She had started working at the diner 2 months ago after moving to a small coastal town with her husband, Jake. Money was tight. Jake had been discharged temporarily due to an injury sustained during a rescue mission overseas. They were rebuilding their lives, quietly and humbly. Emily had never complained about working long hours, juggling rude customers, and surviving on tips. But today was different. The breakfast rush had been brutal. Orders piled up. The coffee machine sputtered. Her manager, Mr. Reynolds, a man in his 50s with an inflated ego and a permanent scowl, had been barking orders like a drill sergeant who enjoyed breaking spirits. Emily tried to stay out of his way, but one mistake, one tray of spilled coffee, turned her into his next target. When he followed her into the staff bathroom, shouting about incompetence and how worthless people waste his payroll, she froze. He cornered her verbally, towering over her as she tried to apologize. She felt small, invisible, stripped of dignity. At the far end of the diner, Jake sat in a corner booth, wearing a simple gray hoodie and jeans. His short-cropped hair and calm demeanor made him blend in easily, but beneath that quiet surface lived a man trained to sense distress, to protect. He had watched Emily dart into the restroom with a trembling hand over her mouth, and something inside him shifted. His instincts told him something was wrong. When he heard Reynolds' raised voice from the hallway, that instinct became certainty. Emily's hands were shaking when she finally left the restroom. She had wiped away her tears, reapplied a faint layer of lip gloss, and forced a smile. That's what she always did, patch herself up and keep moving, but her eyes gave her away. Jake stood up as she passed, gently taking her wrist. His voice was calm, almost whispering. "What happened?" She shook her head, whispering, "Please, not here." The plea in her eyes wasn't just about the embarrassment. It was fear of losing her job, fear of being seen as trouble. Jake nodded but didn't sit back down. He watched her walk behind the counter, picking up her notepad and pretending everything was normal. Then Reynolds emerged, straightening his tie and muttering something under his breath about useless staff. Jake's jaw tightened. For years, he had been trained to control his reactions, to act only when necessary. But seeing the pain behind Emily's forced smile broke something in him. The diner was quieting down as the lunch crowd trickled in. The air smelled of bacon grease and coffee grounds. Jake walked calmly to the counter, waiting for Reynolds to notice him. "Hey," Jake said evenly, "you the manager?" Reynolds barely looked up, annoyance flickering across his face. "Yeah, what's it to you?" Jake smiled faintly, though his eyes were sharp. "I just wanted to thank you. My wife works here. Emily, you've been keeping her busy." There was no mistaking the warning in his tone. Reynolds smirked, assuming this was just another customer defending an employee. "Oh, she's your wife. Well, maybe you should teach her how to do her job before she spills coffee on someone again." He laughed, a dry, condescending chuckle that made Emily's face flush red. Jake didn't move at first. He simply looked at Reynolds long and hard, with the calm intensity of someone who had faced real danger, real cruelty. That look alone made Reynolds falter slightly, though his pride wouldn't let him show it. Then Jake leaned forward slightly, voice low but steady. "You know, I've seen men break in combat, sir. good men, strong men. But you're the kind who breaks others just to feel strong. That's weakness." His words were soft but heavy. The entire diner seemed to pause. Even the waitress refilling a customer's cup stopped mid-motion. Reynolds scoffed, but his voice had lost some of its sharpness. "Is that supposed to scare me?" Jake didn't blink. "No," he said, "but it should make you think." The moment hung in the air like a storm cloud. Jake didn't raise his voice or his hand. He didn't need to. His presence, his composure, it spoke louder than any threat. He turned to Emily, gently took her apron off and said, "Let's go home." She hesitated, torn between relief and fear of losing her only job. But when she saw the certainty in his eyes, she nodded. They walked out together, hand in hand. The bell above the diner door chimed softly behind them. The rest of the staff exchanged glances, some stunned, some quietly smiling, because everyone had seen what Reynolds had done to her before, and everyone had wished they had the courage to say something. Jake had done it for them. That night, Emily sat on their small porch overlooking the sea. The sky was streaked with orange and purple as the sun sank behind the horizon. She felt drained, hollow, yet strangely free. Jake handed her a cup of tea, sitting beside her without a word. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "I've always been scared to stand up for myself," she whispered. "Every job, every time someone talked down to me, I just smiled and kept working." Jake took her hand gently. "You don't have to fight every battle," he said softly, "but you don't have to let anyone make you feel small either." She looked at him then, really looked. The man who had faced war zones, who carried scars both visible and unseen, had stood up for her not with violence but with quiet strength. That meant everything. A few days later, Emily received a call from another local cafe. The owner, who had heard what happened at the diner, offered her a job. "We need people like you," the woman said, "people who care." Emily accepted, tears in her eyes. Life didn't magically become perfect overnight, but something inside her had changed. She no longer walked with her shoulders hunched or her head bowed. She carried herself with quiet confidence, a reminder that dignity doesn't come from titles, but from how you carry yourself through pain. Reynolds, meanwhile, found himself under scrutiny. The story of his behavior spread quickly. A customer who had witnessed the confrontation had recorded part of it and shared it online, not for drama, but to highlight kindness standing up to cruelty. Within days, the clip went viral. People praised Jake for his restraint, his calm dignity, and his unwavering love for his wife. Others shared their own stories of workplace humiliation and standing up for themselves. The diner issued an apology, and Reynolds was quietly dismissed not long after. Months later, on a quiet morning, Emily pinned a small card to the corkboard above their kitchen table, a quote she'd found that reminded her of that day. "Courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet voice that says, 'I'll try again tomorrow.'" She smiled, thinking of how far she had come. She had learned that sometimes the worst moments in life reveal the people who truly stand beside us and the strength we never knew we had. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that love, courage, and respect still matter in this world, please like, comment, and share this video. Let others know that kindness isn't weakness, and standing up for someone you love can change everything. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us that no matter how dark life gets, light always finds a way back in.